You'd think kidney damage would feel obvious. Severe pain. A clear warning. Something impossible to ignore. Something that would stop you in your tracks and tell you, go to the doctor. Now. But that's not how autoimmune kidney damage works. With Sjogren syndrome and lupus, the kidneys can be losing function quietly. Silently. For months. Sometimes longer. And while that is happening, you are going about your life. Tired. A little swollen. A little off. And you assume, it's your condition. It's the Sjogren's. It's the lupus flare. But nobody tells you the kidneys might already be involved. That's what this video is about. Because there are 3 signs that show up before the damage becomes obvious. 3 signs that are easy to overlook. Easy to explain away. And if you have Sjogren's or lupus, these signs matter in a way they might not for someone else. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to share could help you catch something that most people miss. If that sentence just landed for you, if something in what I've described so far sounds familiar, I've put together a symptom map that shows exactly how this condition progresses, what shows up at each stage, and where the standard tests are most likely to miss it. Type symptom map in the comments right now and I'll send it to you directly. Because what I'm about to show you next is why that map matters more than most people realize, and why the stage you're in changes everything about what happens next. Sign 1. The protein drain. You need to know this name. Because once you do, you will never look at your toilet the same way again. The protein drain. That is what is happening inside your kidneys when foam appears in your urine and does not go away. Not bubbles. Not a trick of the light. Not the normal turbulence of a fast stream hitting water. Foam. The kind that sits at the surface. The kind that layers. The kind that is still there after 30 seconds, still there when you turn around, still there when you flush. You have seen it. You registered it. You thought it was strange. And then you explained it away and moved on with your day. That is the protein drain at work. And that decision, to explain it away, is the decision that closes the window. Here is the mechanism. Here is exactly how it works. Inside your kidneys, there is a structure called the glomerular filtration barrier. A precise, layered membrane designed to separate what belongs in your blood from what belongs in your urine. That barrier has one job above everything else when it comes to protein. It keeps it in. Protein belongs in your bloodstream. It builds tissue. It carries hormones. It creates what is called oncotic pressure, a pulling force that holds fluid inside your blood vessels and out of your tissue. Your kidneys are specifically, architecturally designed to hold protein in your blood and keep it out of your urine. When those filters are healthy, protein stays. It never reaches your urine at all. But when your immune system begins attacking kidney tissue, when immune deposits form in the filtration structures and inflammation begins degrading that barrier, the membrane breaks down. Its ability to hold protein in your blood weakens. Protein begins escaping, slipping through the damaged filter. And it ends up somewhere it was never supposed to be. Your urine. Protein in urine creates foam. Not the random surface bubbles that disappear in seconds. Persistent foam. Foam that sits because protein changes the surface tension of water the same way soap does. And when you see that foam, when it is consistent, when it keeps returning, that is not a dietary coincidence. That is your kidneys losing protein they were designed to hold. This is called proteinuria. In Sjogren's and lupus, it is one of the earliest measurable signs that the silent filter failure is active. Now here is the mistake. And this mistake is specific. And it has a cost that most people do not understand until it is too late. You see the foam. You notice it. And because it does not hurt, because it does not stop you from functioning, you wait to see if it goes away. You attribute it to dehydration. To something you ate. To a strange morning. You give it a week. It seems less noticeable. You move on. But actually, the foam did not mean the problem went away. It meant the problem was running quietly while you were not watching. Proteinuria in autoimmune kidney disease does not appear one day and resolve on its own when the underlying immune attack is still active. It continues. It may fluctuate in visibility, some days more obvious, some days less, but the process driving it does not stop because the symptom became less dramatic. The damage accumulates underneath. And here is what the protein drain sets in motion that most people never connect. When protein is draining out of your blood, consistently, over weeks and months, the oncotic pressure in your blood vessels drops. The pulling force that holds fluid inside your vessels weakens. And fluid begins to move in the wrong direction. Out of your blood vessels. Into your surrounding tissue. That fluid accumulation has a name. And it is the third sign. But we are not there yet. Because first, there is a fatigue you need to understand. A fatigue that is not your flare. A fatigue that has a fingerprint entirely its own. A fatigue that most people with Sjogren's and Lupus are already living with right now, without knowing what is actually causing it. You're probably thinking, I already have terrible fatigue. How would I know if this is different? That is exactly the right question. And the answer is coming. Type foam below if you have noticed this in your toilet. If it is something that has been happening and you have been explaining it away. You are not the only one who has seen it and said nothing. Sign 2, the waist load. This is the sign that hides best. Not because it is subtle. But because it feels like something you already have a name for. The waist load. That is what is building in your bloodstream when your kidneys are not filtering the way they should. And the reason why this sign gets missed, consistently, in person after person with Sjogren's and Lupus, is because it arrives wearing the exact clothes of your existing condition. Here is how it works. Here is the mechanism behind the fatigue that rest is not touching. Every second your body is alive, it is producing metabolic waste. Creatinine, urea, blood urea nitrogen. Compounds that are the normal byproducts of muscle activity, protein metabolism, cellular function. These compounds are produced constantly. They circulate in your blood. And under healthy conditions, your kidneys pull them out of that blood and send them out of your body through your urine. In, out, continuously. Every minute of every day. That is the system. Waste produced. Waste removed. Balance maintained. But when the silent filter failure is running, when kidney filtration is compromised by autoimmune damage, the waste does not exit at the rate it is produced. It accumulates. Slowly at first. At levels that may not yet cross the threshold that triggers alarm on a standard blood test. At concentrations that sit within what is technically the normal reference range. But your body already feels it. Because metabolic waste compounds in the blood affect brain function at concentrations far lower than what standard tests flag as abnormal. They affect how your neurons fire. How your mitochondria generate cellular energy. How your neurotransmitters move between cells. Even before any number on any test looks dramatically wrong, you are living inside the accumulation. Every hour. Every day. Without knowing what is causing it. And what it feels like, is a fatigue with a different quality. Not just heavy. Thick. Foggy in a way that goes deeper than tired. Like your thoughts are moving through resistance. Like tasks that used to be automatic now require deliberate, conscious effort that drains you faster than it should. You lose your train of thought mid-sentence. You walk into a room and have no idea why. You read the same paragraph 3 times and retain nothing. You stop in the middle of things, not because you chose to stop, but because continuing requires more than you currently have access to. Now here is the specific danger for someone with Sjogren's or Lupus. And this is the part you need to hear clearly. You already have fatigue. You already have cognitive symptoms. You already have days, and sometimes weeks, where functioning takes everything you have. So when the waste load begins building, when kidney-related neurological and energy effects start layering on top of your existing symptoms, you do not register the change as a new sign. You absorb it. You add it to the existing pile. You file it under flare and you keep moving. But actually, the waste load has a fingerprint that separates it from standard autoimmune fatigue. And once you know that fingerprint, you can recognize it. Standard autoimmune fatigue fluctuates. It is worse during flares and better between them. It responds, even partially, even imperfectly, to rest. There is a rhythm to it. A pattern you have learned over time. A relationship between activity and recovery that you have mapped, even if you have never put it into words. Waste load fatigue does not follow that rhythm. It is consistent in a way that your flare fatigue is not. It does not lift meaningfully after a good night of sleep. It does not improve significantly after a rest day. It sits at a steady floor, beneath everything you do, and that floor does not move regardless of how much you rest. The reason why is direct. Rest does not remove waste from your blood. Only functioning kidneys do that. So no amount of sleep, no amount of pacing, no amount of rest addresses what is causing the waste load. The fatigue continues because the source continues. And the source continues because the silent filter failure is still running. You're probably thinking, but my fatigue has always been bad. How do I know if this flaw has actually changed? The answer is this. Think about your baseline from 6 months ago. From a year ago. Not your worst days, your baseline. The floor your energy sits at between flares, on your average day. Ask yourself honestly whether that floor has dropped. Whether the consistent minimum of how you feel has shifted downward in a way that has become normal, not because it is normal, but because you adapted to it gradually enough that you stopped noticing it as a change. That gradual downward shift in your floor, the one you adapted to so slowly that it no longer registers as alarming, that is the waste load making itself at home. And here is the warning. The one that matters most in this entire section. Kidney damage in autoimmune disease is not always reversible. The filtration structures that are destroyed by immune complex deposition and chronic inflammation, the microscopic architecture that processes your blood every minute of your life, do not reliably regenerate. The longer the silent filter failure runs without being identified and addressed, the more of that architecture is permanently lost. The narrower the recovery options become, the harder the outcome. The waste load is not the end stage of this process. It is the middle warning. It is your body signaling that filtration is struggling while there is still filtration capacity worth protecting. The window is still open. But every week that passes without investigation is a week the window spends closing. And this is where it gets worse. Because the waste load and the protein drain are not two separate problems. They are both outputs of the same failure, the same silent filter failure, running in the background of your existing condition. And when the third sign appears alongside them, when all three show up together in the same body, they stop being individual symptoms and become a pattern. A specific, recognizable pattern that points directly at what is happening in your kidneys. Type tired below if this fatigue has been different. If rest is not touching it the way it used to. If your floor has dropped and you have been calling it your condition. Sign 3, the fluid shift. You wake up and your face looks different. Heavier around the eyes. Puffier at the lids. Like you did not sleep, except you did. You slept 8 hours. You slept well. And you still look like you did not. Or you look down at your ankles at the end of the day and something is not right. A thickness that was not there this morning. A fullness that does not belong. You press your thumb into the skin above your ankle bone. You hold it for a few seconds. You lift your thumb. And the indentation stays. A small dent. Filling back in slowly. Too slowly. You think, too much salt yesterday. Too much sitting. The heat. A medication side effect. That is the fluid shift working in your favor, allowing itself to be explained away. Here is the mechanism. Here is why this is happening in a body with Sjogren's or lupus and compromised kidney function. Your kidneys do not only filter waste. They regulate fluid. They manage the balance between how much water stays inside your blood vessels and how much moves into the surrounding tissue. They work in constant coordination with hormones, blood pressure signals, and the protein concentration in your blood to keep fluid exactly where it belongs, inside your vessels, circulating, doing its job. When kidney function is compromised, that regulation breaks down. And when the protein drain has been running in the background, pulling protein out of your blood over weeks and months, the fluid balance equation shifts. Protein creates oncotic pressure, a pulling force. A force that holds fluid inside your blood vessels and prevents it from seeping into surrounding tissue. When protein drains away, that force weakens. And fluid seeps out. Into the tissue. Into the spaces between cells. Into the areas where the structural resistance is lowest. This is edema. And it collects where the tissue is softest. Around your eyes, because the skin there is thin. Because there is minimal structural resistance underneath it. Because after hours of lying flat overnight, fluid that has shifted out of your blood vessels pools in the loose tissue around your eyes and shows in your face when you wake. You look wrong. You look tired in a way that sleep did not fix. Because sleep was not the problem. Around your ankles, because gravity pulls fluid downward throughout the day. By evening, after hours on your feet or in a chair, the accumulated fluid is visible. The ankles look thicker than they did this morning. The indentation when you press stays too long. That is pitting edema. That is your tissue showing you that the fluid regulation in your body is no longer working. In your fingers, your rings feel tighter than they used to. Not dramatically. Not every day. But consistently. often in the morning, often after sitting still. A tightness that was not there 6 months ago that you have begun to accept as normal. You're probably thinking, swelling happens for 100 different reasons. Salt, heat, hormones, medications, flying, sitting too long. Why would this be the kidneys? That question is the right one. And the answer is the pattern. Swelling from salt intake resolves. Swelling from heat resolves. Swelling from sitting too long resolves when you move, elevate, hydrate. It is temporary. It responds to simple interventions. It does not establish a consistent baseline. The fluid shift does not resolve the same way. It keeps returning. At the same places. With the same consistency. Not dramatically, not the kind of swelling that alarms you, but steadily. Reliably. As a feature of your days that has become part of how you feel rather than something that comes and goes. And in a person with Sjogren's or Lupus, the fluid shift does not appear in isolation. It appears alongside the protein drain and the waste load. Together. Because they share a source. Because they are all three expressions of the same silent filter failure running through the same kidney tissue. That combination, foam in the urine, a fatigue that rest does not touch, swelling that keeps returning, is not a coincidence in someone with a systemic autoimmune disease. It is a pattern. A specific, clinically significant pattern. A pattern that the body is generating on purpose because something is wrong and it is using every channel available to tell you. But here is the mistake that costs people the most. The mistake that happens not because people are not paying attention, but because the system around them is not designed to catch it. Each of these signs gets evaluated in isolation. The swelling gets attributed to medication. The fatigue gets attributed to the lupus. The foam gets noticed and never mentioned because it seems minor and there was already enough to discuss at the last appointment. And because they are evaluated separately, the pattern is never seen. The connection is never made. And the silent filter failure continues. Your kidneys are losing function. Quietly. Using symptoms that sound exactly like the condition you already have. And the people around you, the appointments, the check-ins, the routine monitoring, are not connecting the dots because you have not walked in with the dots already connected. This video just connected them for you. The protein drain. The waste load. The fluid shift. 3 signs. 1 pattern. 1 source. The silent filter failure. Type swelling below if this has been happening. Eyes, ankles, fingers. The swelling that keeps coming back. 3 signs. 1 cause. 1 name. 1 window. The protein drain, foam in your urine that keeps returning, protein escaping through filtration membranes that the autoimmune process has damaged. Your body losing something from your bloodstream that it was never designed to lose. Every instance of that foam is a measurement. A measurement of how much your kidney barrier has broken down. A measurement most people flush away without ever understanding what they were looking at. The waste load, a fatigue that rest does not touch, a cognitive fog that has become your flaw, metabolic waste accumulating in your blood because the filtration system that was supposed to remove it is no longer keeping pace. Building slowly. At levels that standard tests may not yet flag as alarming. But levels your brain and body already feel every single day. The fluid shift, swelling around your eyes in the morning, around your ankles in the evening, in your fingers throughout the day, fluid accumulating in your tissue because kidney fluid regulation has broken down, because protein loss has shifted the pressure equation in your blood vessels, because the system that was supposed to keep fluid inside your circulation is no longer doing its job. These are not 3 random symptoms that happen to appear together. They are one process. The silent filter failure. Expressing itself through 3 channels simultaneously. In 3 parts of your body. In 3 ways that are easy to dismiss individually and impossible to ignore collectively. Look at the comments right now. Foam. Tired. Swelling. People are recognizing themselves in these signs. People who have been living with all 3 of them. People who have been attributing them entirely to their Sjogren's or their lupus. People who had no idea the kidneys were involved. You are not imagining these symptoms. You are not catastrophizing. You are reading a pattern that your body has been trying to show you, and now you have a name for it. There is a window. Not a metaphor. A real, biological, time-limited window during which catching the silent filter failure changes the outcome. Inside that window, early kidney involvement in autoimmune disease is identifiable, addressable, and manageable. The right tests reveal the damage while it is still limited. The right treatment adjustments, immunosuppressive therapy, blood pressure management, dietary support, targeted monitoring, can slow or stop the progression. Kidney function that has not yet been lost can be protected. The architecture that is still intact can be preserved. Outside that window, the calculation changes. Kidney tissue that has been destroyed by immune complex deposition and chronic inflammation does not regenerate. Filtration capacity that has been permanently lost does not return. At that stage, management is about preventing further loss, not recovering what was there. You are still inside the window. The 3 signs you just recognized are early signs. They exist because your body is still in the stage where something can be done. The window is open. But it does not stay open by waiting. Here is exactly what to do. Specifically. Directly. Without hedging. Do not wait for pain. Pain is a late sign in autoimmune kidney disease. The absence of kidney pain is not evidence that your kidneys are fine. It is evidence that you are not yet at the late stage. Those are not the same thing. Using pain as your threshold for action is using the wrong threshold. Do not rely on standard blood tests alone to clear you. A standard creatinine test and GFR calculation can remain within the normal reference range while significant kidney damage is already underway. The filtration capacity has to drop substantially, before these numbers move into clearly abnormal territory. Early silent filter failure does not always show there first. A normal creatinine does not mean your kidneys are unaffected. Instead, go to your doctor, armed with the pattern you now have, and ask specific questions. Not vague questions. Specific ones. Ask, I want to rule out autoimmune kidney involvement. Frame it as ruling out, not as suspecting. Ruling out requires a test. Suspecting can be dismissed. Ask, can we specifically test my urine for protein? A urine protein to creatinine ratio. A spot urine albumin test. Not just a standard urinalysis, a test designed to measure protein loss specifically. Ask, given that I have a systemic autoimmune disease, can we look at my kidney function with that context in mind? And can we track it over time rather than evaluating a single data point? Ask about blood pressure trends. Because kidney involvement affects pressure regulation before it shows up dramatically in other numbers. A pattern of creeping blood pressure, even within the normal range, is data. Ask about trends in your creatinine over time. Not just whether today's number is abnormal. Whether the number has been gradually moving. A creatinine that was 0.72 years ago and is 0.95 today, both technically normal, is a trend worth discussing. These tests exist. They are accessible. They are the difference between catching the silent filter failure in the window and finding out about it after the window has closed. Your kidneys have been filtering your blood every minute of every day for your entire life. When the autoimmune process turns against them, when the silent filter failure begins, they do not stop working immediately. They compensate. They work harder with what is left. For months. Sometimes longer. Maintaining function through effort that cannot be sustained indefinitely. Compensation has a limit. The body only compensates for so long before the signs of struggle become the signs of failure. You are at the stage of signals. Not failure. Signals. Use them. So now you know the silent filter failure. You know the protein drain. The waste load. The fluid shift. You know that these 3 signs are not random, that they are one system expressing itself through 3 channels, and that they form a pattern your doctor needs to see. But here is what most people still do not realize. These 3 signs, as early as they are compared to the late stage, are not the earliest signals the kidneys send. There are signs that come before these. Quieter ones. Ones that appear before the foam becomes consistent. Before the fatigue crosses a threshold you can distinguish from your baseline. Before the swelling becomes visible enough to notice. Signs that get explained as medication side effects. Signs that get attributed to aging. Signs that get absorbed into the general noise of living with a systemic autoimmune disease and never questioned. And those signs, the ones that arrive before everything I have shown you here, are the ones that determine whether the intervention window stays wide open or begins to narrow. Turns out, the silent filter failure does not begin with foam and swelling. It begins earlier than that. With signals so ordinary that most people have already been seeing them for months. Already dismissed them. Already moved on. That is what comes next. Because actually, The earliest warning your kidneys send looks nothing like what you just watched this video expecting to hear. And it is the one most people miss completely. Your body has not been quiet. It has been sending the protein drain through your urine, the waste load through your energy and your clarity, the fluid shift through your face in the morning and your ankles in the evening. It has been running the silent filter failure underneath your flares, underneath your condition, underneath every explanation you had available, and it has been reaching toward you through 3 signs that look like everything you already lived with. You were not imagining it. You were not catastrophizing. You were reading signals from a system that was doing the only thing it could do: create visible outputs from an invisible process and hope you learned to read them. Now you have 3 signs. 1 pattern. 1 window that is still open. Your kidneys do not get a second set of filtration structures. The architecture that gets destroyed does not reliably grow back. The function that is lost in advanced damage does not return to what it was before. This is not a condition where waiting is a neutral choice. But early is a different story. Early is where the medication works best. Early is where monitoring catches the progression before it accelerates. Early is where the outcome is still yours to shape. Early is where the window is still open and the intervention still has power. You are still early. The signals are here. The pattern is named. The window exists. Your body has been doing its job. Now it is time to do yours. Take care of yourself.